Oh, Venerable Miao Yan Fa Shi, Venerable Zhijue Fa Shi, and all Dhamma friends joining us online. Uh, it's been a while. Sorry, this took me about a month to prepare. Uh, it won't be seem as difficult, but for me, it's still a challenge. However, the aim of this presentation is to share what I have learned about the Lamrim from Teacher Tang at UOA, and in so doing, to pass on his guidance. It feels like a daunting task, yet I hope my small effort will offer you at least a spark of Dharma joy and inspiration. Language can be a real barrier, but modern AI translation helps bridge the gap. For me, it really helps a lot. May this talk strengthen your confidence in studying the Lamrim and deepen your understanding of it. I also warmly invite you to hear Teacher Tang's own authentic teachings at UOA, especially his upcoming August series on J. Tsongkhapa's definitive treatise on the Bodhisattva precepts. I hope to see you there. Before every Lamrim study session at UOA, we precede our work by reciting the Ha Sutra 3 times. The fully traditional procedure would be to perform the complete six-fold preliminary rite before any teaching. But because ours is a joint presentation, we abbreviate. Still, if each participant, each one of you, deliberately visualizes receiving a profound lineage, then even though I'm not a fully qualified teacher, the shift in the listener's attitude will make this presentation itself a very different, far richer experience. So before our learning, let's pray together with palm joined. To help all sentient beings across all universes, we must strive for ultimate enlightenment. The path to enlightenment begins with learning the Buddha's teachings. We're currently exploring the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Volume 1. May all Buddhas, Dharma, Sangha, and past practitioners empower us to deepen our understanding of the teachings and equip us to overcome our own suffering and that of others. With unwavering dedication, one day we may achieve ultimate enlightenment and establish pure lands. Together, we can guide all sentient beings toward liberation from suffering and toward enlightenment. Let's recite the name of the Buddha 3 times, seeking his blessings for protection and guidance on our study. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, the stages of the path to enlightenment. First, we must recognize that the purity of the stage of the path teaching rests on the excellence of its authors, Master Chisha and J. Tsongkhapa. Second, we should gain a distinct appreciation of the treatise itself. Its special quality is that it penetrates the whole of scripture without contradiction, causes every word of the Buddha to appear as practical instruction, readily unveils the Buddha's hidden intent. The hidden intent I will explain later, and even removes the most grievous sin of revealing the Dharma, like saying this Dharma is important, that Dharma is not important. No, this is not right way of expressing the teachings of the Buddha. And the third and the fourth, once we know that the lineage capable of conveying these teachings, the great treatise on the stages of the path, descends from Master Atisha and Jaisankapa, we must understand how transmission occurs. A qualified spiritual teacher explains, listeners hear, and in so doing, the treatise is handed down. Transmission means using the treatise to elucidate the sutras, the teachings of the Buddhas. It is not a teacher improvising according to personal fancy. The ritual framework of the Lamrim, especially its preliminaries, is extremely precise. Unlike the casual introduction to an ordinary lecture, he repeatedly stresses lineage and fosters a heightened appreciation for this work, knowing that the treatise is the very quintessence of the Buddha's words. We propagate and preserve it through the twin activities of teaching and listening, the most skillful means for ensuring the widespread and proper explanation of the Dharma. So these four are the basic structure for the beginning of this study. We have already described the noble circumstances of Master Atisha's birth and learned that such an auspicious rebirth was secured by vigorous efforts in his former lives. The lesson is clear. If we too wish for an excellent future life, we must begin creating the causes now. If we aim for Buddhahood, we must start here and now to study its path and methods. We have also traced how Master Atisha completed his training, which expressed itself in his penetrating understanding of doctrine and his realized meditative attainments. Both parts, two parts. One is the knowledge, the understanding of all the teachings of the Buddha. Another part is the real realization through meditative attainment. All of these rests on mastery of the three higher trainings: ethics, concentration, and wisdom. Ethics opens the way to favorable human or heavenly rebirth. Concentration enables self-cultivation within the three realms: desire realm, formless realm, formless realm. Only wisdom liberates us from those realms altogether, allowing us to move freely through the universe or universes and help all sentient beings awaken. So our next topic will recount the major achievements Master Atisha accomplished after he was invited to Tibet. Having gained those good qualities, what Master Atisha did to further the teachings. So what he did in Tibet, divided into 5 parts. 1, refuting false doctrines and renewing the monastic regulations. All these is important. Secondly, removing impairments to celibacy and to 3 higher trainings of the ethics, concentration, and wisdom. 3, clarifying the 3 requisite causes for composing a flawless treatise, and which will be probably for today. And then the following 2 will be explained next time. Showing that since the master possesses these 3 causes, he can definitively discern the Buddha's intent. And 5th, his peerless disciples. So let's begin by the first one, refuting false doctrines and renewing the monastic regulations. The content is, The royal renunciates uncle and nephew uh, sent to India in succession. The two translators, Gyatong-san and Nga-cho, Dzogchen-gyatwa. OK，藏中所作事理者天尊师长叔侄，如其次第其他姻亲。So this 天尊师长叔侄 is the royal renunciate's uncle and nephew. Okay, and the following two translators' name will be explained in the next slide. Because they made great efforts to invite them again and again, Master teacher went to Upper Ngari during the time of Japubo, Jiang Chopo, sorry, Jiang Chopo, 说前使洛扎瓦假精进狮子及拿错戒圣往印迎请菩提光时请至而日夺。This 而日夺 meaning this upper Ngari, Ngari. And Jiang Chopo is this Puti Guang in Chinese. All these names will be explained. Okay, so let's begin by explaining this uncle, King Yesheo. He was the second king of the Guge Kingdom in 989. Aged 42, he took monastic vows at the Shagan Hermitage, yet continued to rule as a king. He was the first figure in Tibetan history to be both the king and the spiritual head. Okay, Chakravartin king is actually to refer that he was still as a king and also the Dharma king, okay, to teach the Dharma, to teach Buddha Dharma. So the background, he at the age of 42, he became a monk, and then he still rules this Guge kingdom. And his contributions directed the Buddhist revival, while his elder brother, Kochong, king of Purang, handled secular affairs, though Yesheo held the greater power, which means that he's not only ruling the country, but also teaching people with the Buddha Dharma. And secondly, established a dual system, royal family members who renounced became religious leaders. Those remaining laymen served as kings, okay, and sponsored monastery construction and translation work, laying the foundation for Gugen's fusion of monastery and state. Okay, so we can see all these are famous sites, and we can see this Guge kingdom ruins is here, this place. And this monastery is especially important during his reign as a king, King Yesheo, King Yesheo here. Contribution to monastery constructions here. This monastery we just showed you on the map, and this Tapo monastery in Ladakh and Key monastery in Ladakh. Both of these two monasteries are still functioning. The Key monastery is especially still guiding a lot of novice monks to learn. Okay, and this is King Jiang Chopo. Jiang Chopo. So King Jiang Chopo, or King Bodhi Light in Chinese Puti Guang, he entered the order in 1023, when he later took charge of government, his main task was to restore public confidence in Buddhist um, polity after invasions by Khanites and other Islamic forces. Because at the time, there was this invasion, destroyed a lot. So Yesheo, he was not being able to continually guiding the nation. So he asked his grandnephew, actually, this is not the nephew, it's the grandnephew, to rule the country and still finding a proper teacher to guide people in learning the Dharma. So he became a central figure in Gugge history. Originally a monk renowned for his learning, Zhang Chopo was thrust into kingship in 1037 after the death of his elder brother in battle. As a secular ruler, he diligently set about restoring his war-torn kingdom while fulfilling his granduncle's spiritual vision, inviting Master Atisha to Tibet. Okay, so this is just a short introduction. And then this is the translator, Rinchen Zangpo, known as the great translator of the later diffusion. Rinchen Zangpo, named Precious Excellent One, was a preeminent Tibetan scholar, monk, and a very famous translator. Born in 958 in the village of Gugge, he ordained at the age of 13 and was soon recognized by King Yesheo, an exceptionally gifted Losawa, meaning translator. Rinchen Zangpo traveled 3 times to India and Kashmir for advanced studies, spending a total of 17 years training under masters at famed monastic universities like Nalanda and Vikramashila. He became fluent in Sanskrit and versed in all fields of Buddhist doctrine. Upon returning to Tibet, Rinchen Zangpo undertook an enormous translation enterprise at the Upper Road Translation Bureau in Gugge, rendering and editing over 150 texts, including 108 tantric scriptures into Tibetan. This work was pivotal in reconstructing the Tibetan Buddhist canon. Because before Master Atisha, there was a huge destruction of Buddhism in Tibet. That's why restoration is important. He also oversaw the construction of numerous temples across Nari and adjacent regions. 108 temples by lore, with Choling, a monastery, being the most prominent, celebrated as the king of translators. Rinchen Zangpo was among the greatest encyclopedic scholars of Tibet's medieval era. He mentored many disciples in translation. Even the Indian master Master Atisha praised Rinchen Zangpo's accomplishments as a radiant beacon in the land of snows. Okay, so that's a short introduction of this very translator, very famous translator. So because of him, he met Master Atisha. He introduced Master Atisha to King Yesheo. So that's why later King Zhang Chopo would send another translator to India and invite Master Atisha to come to Tibet. Okay, another translator, this Gyasankye, Okay, this is also been mentioned earlier. This translator called Gyat Sung, but this is another name we can uh, find from the internet. The prominent Tibetan translator and envoy of the Guge court. Uh, the name indicates he hailed from the Gya clan. This Gya is a clan's name. Uh, Chongzhou Sangye literally means diligent lion. So we can also call Master Diligent Lion. He appears in the historical records as a key figure dispatched by Yeshio and later Zhang Chopo on missions to India. According to Master Atisha's biographies, this Chongzhu Sangye led the second mission to invite Master Atisha, comprising 9 members and bearing lavish gifts of gold. Tragically, 8 of the party perished due to disease en route. And although this Chongzhu Sangye survived, he was unable to persuade Master Atisha at that time. Instead, he remained in India to continue his studies. Fluent in Sanskrit and well-versed in Buddhism, this Chongzhu Sangye later assisted Ngācho Lotawa, the translator, during the third and successful mission to bring Master Atisha to Tibet. While details of his life are sparse, his role and title highlight the cadre of learned Tibetan envoys in the 11th century dedicated to revitalize the Dharma. This Chongzhu Sangye's effort significantly advanced Tibet-India Buddhist exchanges, making him a crucial link between Guge and the Indian monastic centers. Okay, this is a short introduction of this Gya Sangye or Gya Chongzhu Sangye, the translator. Okay, come to this translator, Ngācho. Ngācho is a very important figure in this Lamrim Chemo, this treatise. A famed Tibetan translator, monk, whose name means moral discipline victorious. After earlier attempts to invite Master Atisha had failed, King Zhangchopo turned to Ngācho Lotawa in 1040 and besieged him to undertake the third mission to India. Ngācho, who had already traveled to India on previous occasions, set out with 6 companions and 700 measures of gold, determined to succeed where others could not. Upon reaching Vikramashila Monastery, he encountered resistance from its abbot, who feared losing one of India's most realized masters, this Master Atisha. Ngācho shrewdly concealed the true purpose of his trip, pretending to be a student of Sanskrit, and bided his time for several months, guided by auspicious visions of Avalokiteshvara's Bodhisattva's emanations. Ngācho finally managed to meet Master Atisha privately and convey Tibet's sincere, which moved Master Atisha, to consent to the journey. Okay, in 1042, Ngācho successfully escorted Master Atisha to Guge. Thereafter, he served as Master Atisha's chief interpreter, translating numerous teachings into Tibetan and thereby transplanting the Kadampa teachings into Tibetan soil. Tibetan soil. Nacho later accompanied Master Tisha to central Tibet and helped train disciples, such as Trungtrungpa, who became Master Tisha's spiritual successor. As the principal architrator of Master Tisha's mission, Nato Lotawa is remembered for his linguistic brilliance and courageous diplomacy, which earned him a pivotal place in Tibetan history. So this is also the short introduction of Nato Lotawa, the translator. So there is a famous story. Back then, the first wave of Buddhist teachings in Tibet had all but vanished. The later dissemination was only just gaining traction. Yet the revival was chaotic. Some Tibetans devoted themselves to Vinaya discipline and ignored Tantra. Others obsessed over Tantra and dismissed Sutra. So the two extremes are like hot and cold. Okay. Sensing an opportunity, a parade of Indian scholars arrived in Tibet in search of gold, because at the time, people believed that in Gugat Kingdom there are many mines, so they have gold, plenty of gold. A few were genuine masters, but many peddled dubious mantras and ritual sects. Under their influence, it became nearly impossible for the pure teaching of the Buddha to take root. That's before Master Tisha. So the king, also the monk, Yeshio, could not stand this decline. Determined to restore authentic Dharma, he sent 21 bright Tibetan students to India to find a qualified pendant. 19 died on the road. Only 2 translators, Rinchen Zampo, we introduced, and another's Lekten Sherbrop. This we didn't introduce, but he appeared here, returned alive. They came back steeped in learning, but empty-handed. They had failed to persuade the great Master Tisha to come to Tibet. So 2 translators reported to the king, among all the scholars we met, only Master Tisha in Vikramashila monastery can truly help Tibet. On hearing Master Tisha's name, Yeshio felt an unshakable faith. He dispatched Gyatsan Sangye and 8 companions with a fortune in gold to invite the master. They failed as well, and the king himself went out to collect yet more gold. Okay, so that's the basic story. But during that search, the king was captured by Garlong Kwan, who demanded that the king renounce his plans or die. So thrown into prison, Yeshil refused to abandon the Dharma. His nephew, in Tibet, nephew can refer to one's grandnephew. So the grandnephew, Prince Jungtropo, offered to ransom him. The Khan insisted on the king's weight in gold had included. The prince scraped together enough gold to match his uncle's body's weight, except for the head. The Khan rejected the offer. At the prison gate, the prince tearfully told his granduncle he would search for more gold. Yeshua laughed weakly. Nephew, you have proven your courage. I'm old. At most 10 years remain to me. If so much gold buys only those few years, you would shame the 3 jewels. Better that I die for the Dharma. Use the gold to bring Master Atisha. Tell him I gave my life for the Buddha's teachings and for him. Ask him with compassion to fulfill my wish and come to Tibet. Heartbroken, the prince laughed and resolved to carry out the king's last request. Okay, that's the story. Back in Tibet, strange cults, red fisherman, the blue skirt pendant, the 18 mendicants of Artsel were passing themselves off as tantric masters. To defeat these imposters, Prince Jangchopo prayed for guidance. Every deviation pointed to one man, the translator Natso Tochimkawa, Gawa, then residing in the gilded temple at Gangtang. So he went. The prince summoned the translator, Natso, seating him on his own throne. And then, in gesture of deep respect, and pleaded, only Master Atisha can restore the Dharma. My uncle gave his life for this cause. We have gathered 1,400 ounces of gold, the entire wealth of Tibet. Take it to India. Tell Master Atisha, our land is like a city of hungry ghosts. Finding gold here is extremely difficult now. If you refuse to help us, what hope is left? Explain everything until he understands. Okay, as the prince spoke, tears soaked his lap. Moved by the prince's sincerity and the sacrifice of King Yesheo, Natsu agreed. Okay. So 7 ministers carried the gold and escorted the translator south. The prince accompanied them a long way, saying, Translator, I rely on you. Petition Avalokiteshvara along the road. And when you return, I will repay your kindness. Okay. In Nepal, a tall stranger greeted the travelers. Your journey on the great mission, recite homage to the three jewels. May the holy Dharma, source of all Buddhas, spread in the land of snows. Saying this, and no misfortune will befall you. So when they asked the tall stranger's name, he smiled and said, you will know in time. Many such mysterious helpers, emanations of Trantunpa, who would later be Master Atisha's chief disciple, protected Natsu and his party all the way to India. And so, armed with king's sacrifice, a nation's gold, and a translator's resolve, Tibet made its final heartfelt appealing to bring Master Atisha to the land of snows. Okay, that's the story. So when they welcomed him there, his host prayed that he might purify the Buddha's teaching. Based on his prayer, he furthered the teaching through activities such as composing the Lamb for the Path to Enlightenment, a text that brings together the stages of practice, condensing all the key points of the sutra and mantra vehicles. 其请示理佛陀圣教，亦是因缘总集一切经咒要义，设为修行次第遂造菩提聚论等而兴教法。So this Land for the Path to Enlightenment is a very important text. What he did in Tibet, the most important thing, Master Atisha, was to write this very text. Lamb cast light on the path to awakening, showing sentient beings which road they must follow to attain liberation and Buddhahood. Master Papanga says, "The lamp on the path includes the answers to Zhang Chongpo's questions. Soon after its appearance, the crude and pervasive teachings in Tibet disappeared from whence they come." So this very text helped Tibet to restore and also reorganized under, of course, the example of Master Tisha and the resolve of this new king, Zhang. So, moreover, for 3 years at Ngari, 9 years at Nyantang, and 5 years at other places in U and Tsang, he taught all the instructions for the texts of the sutra and mantra vehicles to fortunate students. 子父著于俄日3载，聂堂9岁未葬于处5年之中，为诸善士开示经咒教典教授请尽无余。So Teacher Tang says, scriptural texts are simply the written works themselves. Now, instructions are the oral keys that unlock those texts. Without knowing how to interpret the scriptures, merely possessing the books is useless. Lacking such instructional keys, how could anyone explain the sutra? So with the guidance, with the text, of course, with the explanation, the interpretation is important. Even with the volumes in hand, it would remain an indecipherable book of heavenly characters. So Teacher Tang saying, like, even though we have all these books, but without explanation, all these words will be meaningless. It's not like these words cannot touch us, but some hidden meaning behind words. Without transmission, we won't be able to understand. So the transmission is important. And why is because the oral transmission, sometimes we have to see the sincerity of the person. So if you're sincere enough, of course, you will be able to receive the full package of the teachings. But how serious we are, sometimes we have to ask ourselves. Yesterday, Teacher Tang also mentioned about this, and most of the people that came to learn, they just came to receive new knowledge. They were not regarding all these teachings or something that would even be able to change their lives. So we can ask ourselves, when doing this dedication, we dedicate all these merits for the sake of becoming a Buddha. Are we really thinking of becoming a Buddha? So this is something we have to constantly kind of reviewing ourselves, deep within ourselves. Okay, so this is the map to see the 3 years in Ngari, this area, and 9 years in Nyetang, this area, and 5 years in other places in Wuentang, this area. So the main activities were there in this area during Master Atisha's time. Of those building temples in Nepal by the help of Zhang Chongpo, these temples are still in Nepal and making a great influence. The result was that he reestablished the practices of the Buddhist system that had disappeared. He reinvigorated those that remained only slightly, and he removed corruption based on misconceptions. Thus, he made the precious teachings free of defilement. 圣教规模，诸以末者重新建树诸略存为被令增广诸被邪解垢秽染者，皆善治除，令圣教宝悉离垢染。So this part, Teacher Tang explained. What most alarming is a teacher without lineage guru's training who interprets the scriptures however he or she likes. Okay, so without really receiving the transmission teachings, just explain all the teachings themselves. Such corruption, both of misunderstanding, misconceptions, especially when an insider twists the Buddha's words to suit his or her own notions, is truly frightening, though most people do not realize the danger. That's what Teacher Tong says. So that was why the phrase reestablished the practices of the Buddhist system that had disappeared refers above all to Master Atisha's land for the path. It set up a coherent framework for the sacred doctrine and reinvigorated those that remain only slightly, means he completed and standardized the scattered practice manuals such as the preliminary rites, while rooting out self-appointed teachers who expounded scripture according to their own whims. Accomplishing this was anything but easy. So it was very hard. Thankfully, he had trained in the royal families and with all these great resources to train himself into a very skillful master. Of course, went through a lot of studies in India, and that also helped. And not only in India, but also learned from Salingpa how to generate a bodhicitta, and also the Lamrim teachings. So every time when Master Atisha mentioned Master Tsarlimpa, he would join his palms above his head for deep appreciation and gratefulness, like this. Okay, so ruins of Guge Kingdom. You can see the picture here, and this Nari Lakang Temple, very beautiful paintings on the wall, and also the statue. And this Nietang, especially the place where Master Atisha spent there 5 years. Nietang is another Tibetan place name located very close to Lhasa. So Nietang Monastery is where Master Atisha passed into pure nirvana even. J. Trungpa later built a temple of Tara on the site. Nietang Monastery itself is a very small establishment, I can see. So Master Atisha entered the territories unified under the Guge Kingdom. Upper Nari refers to the western part of today's Nari prefecture, approximately the area of modern Zada County. Nietang, where he passed away, is a small monastery in Nietang, Shishu County, just west of Lhasa. Okay, just to take a look. So this is the very room of Master Atisha, and this is the gate, just the outer appearance of this monastery. Okay, two traditional reckonings of Master Atisha's years in Tibet. The first account is Pakha Choki Kyatsen's history of the Gandan Dharma lineage. Venerable Jowaji is Master Atisha was born in the water horse year, 1010. At the age of 59, he set out from India. Age of 60, he reached Nepal. Age of 61, he arrived in the kingdom of Nari Guge. At age 63, he came to central Tibet. At the age of 73, he passed away in Nietang. Thus, he resided in Tibet 11 years. Okay, this is the first account. The second account is this. Although the first version is generally considered authoritative, The present long-run text follows the second. Master Atisha spent 17 years in Tibet. So we will take this account. During that time, Master Atisha rebuilt every aspect of the Dharma that had disappeared, expanded what little still remained, and cleansed the teaching of the stains of wrong views, thus restoring the jewel of the Buddha's doctrine to its pristine clarity. So spent in Tibet 17 years should be the version that we take here. Okay, the second part of this section, what Master Atisha did in Tibet, is in general, the glorious Santarashita and Padmasambhava introduced the practices of the Buddhist system to the land of snow, Tibet, during the early dissemination of the teaching. However, the Chinese abbot He Shang caused the teaching to decline. Okay, he did not understand emptiness correctly. 总之，雪山剧中乾弘圣教为圣境命及莲花生见圣教鬼，然由支那和尚堪布解了空性未达扼要。Padmasambhava and Santarashita were brought into Tibet by King Trizong Detsen. The year-long dynasty's patronage of Buddhism began with King Nyatri Zampo, continued under Songtsen Kampo, and reached Trizong Detsen, who invited the Indian abbot scholar Shantarashita and the tantric master Padmasambhava. Shantarashita oversaw doctrinal teaching while Padmasambhava performed the miraculous activities needed to tame obstacles. Explained by Teacher Tom. Among Chan Buddhists, one often hears the slogans, directly point to the mind, see one's nature and become a Buddha. And where word cease and thought is extinguished. These are very famous phrases you may hear from Chan Buddhism. So here, this Chinese abbot, He Shang, who was very similarly a Chan master, came from mainland China to Tibet and to preach this very notion of no analytical thinking, only by believing that one has Buddha nature, or like directly point to the mind, and then you will be able to see the nature. So without any further explanations, this would be very dangerous for cultivating the teachings of the Buddha. So the Chinese monk in question was called Mahayana, ironically, Mahayana. From 786 to 796, he taught in Tibet, spreading the doctrine that became quite pervasive. Okay, this Mahayana or He Shang insisted that all skillful means were not the Buddha's true intent. Instead, one should directly point to the mind and become a Buddha, prohibiting every kind of conceptual elaboration. Anything discriminative was, to him, entangling vines. Frankly, discrimination analysis is the very cause of non-discrimination, meditative equipoise. So there are two kinds. We will explain later. We have analytical meditation and also non-analytical stabilization, meditation. So these two different aspects when learning the doctrines of the Buddha or the teachings of the Buddha. Uh, the absence of discrimination or analysis is its result. Will cause what? Will cause that one would not be able to understand the teaching fully. Okay. So important to understand the teachings. So Master Tsongkhapa, J. Tsongkhapa answers that there is no problem, just as the mother can give birth to either a boy or a girl. Discrimination can give rise to discrimination or to non-discrimination. Therefore, analytical discrimination is the real key to practice, exactly opposite to this Chinese He claim. Okay. And why? Because also this master, this very master from China, object, but by the principle of similar antecedents, discrimination should follow discrimination, and non-discrimination should follow non-discrimination. How can discrimination precede non-discrimination? So analytical cannot be the front. Otherwise, analytical can also lead to analytical result. But this is not the case. Yeah, analytical is very important, like choosing the path. Okay, which path I should take? Once I determine that this path should be the one path, should be the path that I take. So I just go. I just go on this path. So there won't be any discrimination. Okay. So at the very beginning, we should be very careful with all these teachings. We have to do analytical study. And then we determine that all these teachings are very clear in front of us. So then we know, okay, which path to take and what kind of method we have to use. Then just following the path and cultivate all these methods. With the methods, we will be achieving the aim to arrive at the destination. Okay, so some pictures to show. There's Santarashika, this picture, and Master Pamasambhava's deep picture, very famous. And this is church to show us the early dissemination of the teachings and later dissemination of the teaching, the early dissemination of the teaching from the founding of the Tibetan Empire by Songtsen Kampo through its flourishing under Tritsong Detsan to the script reform of Tripel and ending just before the anti-Buddhist persecution of King Langdharma. This entire period is known as the early diffusion or early dissemination of the teaching of Tibetan Buddhism. A later dissemination of the teaching, a later diffusion or dissemination begins with Zheng Zhongpo inviting Master Tisha to Tibet. Strictly speaking, the later diffusion denotes the revival of Tibetan Buddhism after Langdharma's suppression. So we have this at least basic understanding of Tibetan Buddhism, the history of Tibetan Buddhism. And thereby denigrated the factor of method and negated bringing anything to mind, even virtue. The great master Kamalasila, after refuting He Shangwell, established the conqueror's intent. Hence, his kindness was most great. 以是因缘棒方便分，遮止一切作为思维，损灭损坏损减教法损减教法为莲花界大阿舍离善破灭矣抉择圣者所有利益为恩极重。So how did the master Kamalashila come to Tibet? Teacher Tang asked. Okay. Santarashita, on his deathbed, asked King Trizong Tsun to invite him. Okay, so he came. Whereas China's sixth Chan patriarch survived an assassination attempt, Santarashita was actually killed. Okay, seeing how hard it was to preserve the true Dharma in Tibet should fill us with longing and reverence for it, not with the complacency of reading a book in air conditioning, leg crossed, and sipping tea. Meaning, Teacher Tang is reminding us that all these teachings are coming in with great efforts in the past. So it is really hard for us to actually have these texts without all these previous efforts. They had to sacrifice themselves with great pressure at a time to propagate the teachings. So after Kamalashila and the great scholar Shantideva arrived, Tibet at last had the means to preserve the Buddha's authentic teaching and to refute He doctrine of non-analysis. Kamalashila belonged to Yogacara, Savatantrika, Madhyamika tradition. It took him 3-4 years to demolish He errors. So it was a very hard time for the propagation of Buddhism. Using 3 years to debate and to challenge this Chinese monk's points. Thanks to him, the Buddha's intent was safeguarded. In particular, his stages of meditation, initial, intermediate, and final, clarifying the intent, showing that the Buddha never meant no analysis. I used 3 volumes to explain this. See nature without a teacher, and so forth. Simply watch your own nature, and right then there you are no different from a Buddha. Such sayings were precisely what Kamalashila painstakingly refuted. Okay, so this kind of phrase we can hear from Chan Buddhism a lot. Okay. So about conqueror's intent, Master Papanga says, this is actually saying that you have not realized the thought of the victorious one, the Buddha, unless you have realized the correct view. What is the correct view? Implying that it is the strength of your realization of that view that enables you to discover the thought of the victorious one. So, according to Tsongkhapa, the import of the essence of all the victor's scriptures, this refers to the fundamental of renunciation. He goes on and say, the path praised by holy victors and their children, meaning the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all these holy monastics, sages. This refers to the fundamental of bodhicitta, the aspiration to become Buddha. Lastly, he says, the gateway for the fortunates wanting liberation, the gateway for the fortunates wanting liberation. This refers to the correct view. Thus, by implication, you still need the other 2 fundamentals, renunciation and bodhicitta, along with the teachings of emptiness. So when you depend on the long run, you will easily discover that the subject matter of the great classics aims at developing these 3 fundamentals in your mind stream. With such a discovery, the right view arises in your mind effortlessly, and you will have then easily discovered the thoughts of the victorious one. Okay, so what are the three? The emptiness, the bodhicitta, the renunciation. Okay. This is the picture of Kamalashila. Okay, in the later dissemination of the teaching to Tibet, some who fancied that they were scholars and yogis misconstrued uh, the meaning of the collections of sutras. Because of this, they did great damage to the maintenance of ethical discipline, the root of the teachings. This excellent being, Master Tisha, refuted them well. 于后弘圣教，则有类妄自精为善巧智者于切师尤其导致相续不一，于教根本清净犯行作大损害。为此善事尚未破除。One especially dangerous misconception is the inverted attachment of those who do not take the sutric path as their common ground. So these Mahayana teachings or Prajnaparamita teachings or these teachings from the sutras are the common ground. But people do not esteem bodhicitta or the correct view of emptiness or renunciation are important. They think that practicing Tantra alone will bring success. Consequently, they also discard the Sutra Vinaya, an alarming obstacle to one's practice, explained by Teacher Tong. So the collections of tantras include the tantric view, the 5 paths and 10 bhumis cultivated on the basis of that view, and the final fruits obtained. So a collection of tantras are important, of course, but the common ground is the Mahayana teachings, the Prajnaparamita teachings. So with the Lama Chemo, we will be able to know the stages on the path to enlightenment. Okay. So this is something we have to keep in mind. So misconstrue the meaning of the collection of the tantras, meaning that you don't really know what should be the right way of cultivation. When Vinaya, the Samatha and Vipassana, these three are so important, especially the ethic part, the Vinaya part. Okay, moreover, he caused their erroneous conceptions to disappear, and then reinvigorated the flawless teaching. Thus, his kindness reached all those of the land of snow. 复能殄灭诸邪之浊，弘盛增广无导圣教，故其深恩普遍雪山一切众生。So let's say if such errors are not cleared away, the entire Dharma collapses. Self-appointed pundits will twist the teaching until nothing remains. Had Master Atisha not come to Tibet and clarified the Buddha's doctrine, Buddhism would never have survived to the present day, would have disintegrated into a babble of private interpretations. So now we have a lot of this self-appointed teacher is talking about the Dharma. And this is quite dangerous. So this is why we are here and learning with this text together. Okay, the third part of the section, what he did in Tibet, Master Tisha did, clarifying the 3 requisite causes for composing a flawless treatise. Furthermore, there are 3 ideal qualifications for an author of texts that elucidate the intent of the sage in this way. The author, 1, should have mastered the five topics of knowledge 啊，如是造论，光显能人所有密意，复有三种圆满圣因，为善所之五种名处。Teacher Tang explains. Here it's said that the lamp for the path to enlightenment reveals the Buddha's innermost, previously unspoken intent, extracting the finest essence, the cream of the scriptures, is no easy task. The lamp, the doctrine, the teachings of Master Atisha distills that very essence, which is what is meant by the term secret intent, or this intent of the sage. Why must Atisha's lamp able to disclose the Buddha's hidden meaning? Because Master Atisha possesses three ideal qualifications. Endowed with these three qualifications, he was fully qualified to elucidate the Buddha's intent, especially through the lamp for the path. The first ideal qualification is that Master Atisha had mastered the five topics of knowledge. His broad learning and exceptional skills equipped him to clarify doctrine and illustrate it with apt examples. So the more you know with the world, it's a worldly knowledge. These are important as well. With all these, you will be able to use all these examples, worldly examples, to explain the supreme teachings or this holy teachings of the Buddha. Second, should possess instructions that are the key points for practicing the meaning of the topics of the Buddhist knowledge, which have been transmitted in an unbroken lineage through excellent beings from the perfect Buddha. 据教授未从正变之辗转传来，于其中间善事未断修持彼义而要教授。The second ideal qualification is that he held an unbroken and complete Buddhist lineage, ensuring that everything he taught was rooted in authentic transmission. So now we are also trying to have this authentic transmission through the guidance of all these past gurus with oral transmission to receive teachings, to understand the hidden meaning of all the teachings of the Buddha. And third, should receive permission to compose the text in a vision of his or her chosen deity. If someone with any one of these qualifications can compose a text, then when all three are present, it is ideal. This great master was endowed with all three. This great master, Master Atisha, was endowed with all three. 并得业见本尊天眼，或言开许此等随意虽能造论，然三其具即为圆满。此大阿舍离三界被具。The third ideal qualification is that his composition of the lamp was sanctioned by his deity. That is, the treatise was written under the explicit approval of the deity of his practice. Because Master Atisha possessed these three ideal qualifications, he was fully qualified to set forth the Buddha's intent in the lamp for the path. Okay, so Teacher Tang ended by talking about this three principal endeavors of a qualified spiritual teacher. So the first one is the teaching. The teaching the lecture, through giving Dhamma discourses, the teacher gathers and guides the virtuous. So without the teachings, then we won't be able to gather all the virtuous and even to make all these virtuous examples, to have this resolve in setting examples for people, vast majority, so that this vast majority would have more guidance. So these teachings are important. Teacher Tang compares this to Confucius, who, by teaching, attracted 72 outstanding disciples and 3,000 students. If a monastery stops teaching, its lifeblood dries out. Okay, seriously. Decades of experience have convinced Teacher Tang of this. So that's why Teacher Tang never stopped teaching. That's why we are inspired to be giving presentations and hoping that all of us will be able to continue these teachings. Not because we are good teachers, but because the teaching itself is worthy to spread. Okay, and second is debate. By engaging in debate, the teacher subdues false doctrines. A Buddhist thought is often infiltrated by ideas of Sankhya or Vaisheshika or other non-Buddhist views. Okay, so all these like Indian philosophies, or we can say like a lot of modern philosophical thoughts also infiltrated into Buddhist teachings. So all these non-Buddhist views to call Buddhism more like localized or modern Buddhism. Modern Buddhism is, of course, this term that's been taken by some new Gatampa lineage. So I'm not referring to those. But some people they say, okay, modernized Buddhism should be look like in certain types. And all these were being considered like infiltrated by infiltrated these authentic teachings. So we have to be very careful. So with this criteria set by Lam Chemo, by the stages on the path of enlightenment, we will be able to understand which would be the correct understanding of the Buddha's teachings. Entering the middle way shows through debate among these non-Buddhists how to shift true Dharma from mistaken views. Without such a debate, then we won't be able to understand the true teachings of the Buddha. And third, composition, authorship. By writing treatises, the teacher delights the wise, winning the appreciation of the wise. When scholars prepare to teach, they rely on these commentaries to expound the sutras. So authorship, therefore, is essential for the Dharma's continued transmission. So all these three are so crucial: teaching, debate, and authorship. Teacher Tang laments that modern Buddhism often ignores these three lifelines. Instead, it is reduced to some like humanistic Buddhism, charity programs, or various worldly outreach programs. Valuable in themselves, yet neglectful of the very activities that preserve and propagate the Buddha's doctrine. Okay, that's for today. And I hope that we will have another gathering to finish this chapter. And I think this author that have made this treatise, we should know by heart. So we know that this is very valuable teachings. And when we have this text with us, we have to be very grateful. Like this, every time you take this book, like respectfully. Yeah. It is really hard to have this text. Yeah. Those people, they sacrifice their lives. And we don't have to think that far. We just think of like Teacher Tang himself, he had used his decades of life to propagate non-profit, without asking for anything in return. He even had to prepare a lot of gifts to give away for people to come and learn. So that kind of sacrifice is compared to those commentaries made with a lot of very serious debates, you know, even would have to sacrifice their lives. And then written all these great treatises or great commentaries for the sake of explaining authentic teachings of the Buddha. And sometimes under wars or a lot of difficulties. And sometimes they didn't even think of that they want to become great masters. No, they did not come across this kind of thoughts. The very purpose was for them was to continue to hand down all these good teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, so thank you for participating in today's presentation. I hope that these teachings will be inspirational to you. Prayer after learning. May the merit gained from this practice adorn the Buddha's Pure Land. May it repay the kindness of parents, sentient beings, teachers, and the Triple Gem from above, and relieve the suffering of those in the hell, hungry ghost, and animal realms below. May those who see or hear of this practice generate the aspiration for ultimate enlightenment. When this life ends, may we be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. We pray to all Buddhas of the 10 directions, past, present, and future, to all Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas, Mahaprajnaparamita. Okay, thank you, Venerables. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I hope you enjoyed the learning and gain great benefits. Amitofo.